Hello once again. We are once again back in the car, therefore we have seen another film. Da-da-da.
Dun-da-da-da.
Tonight's film was the 5th movie in the Hunger Games series. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, correct?
That sounds right.
Yep. So, that's the film that we saw this evening. Let's just get on with it. DJ, what did you think about this film on a scale of 1 to 10?
I give it a 7.
Really, why?
Production value is really strong. It's visually stunning. There's a lot of really good shots, especially of the Capitol. Gives a little bit of hints and nods to some of the original series without dragging too much of... It doesn't rely heavily on the previous films for what it is. You could watch this on its own and understand the world without having to watch the previous ones. Like, the world's well established, it's built well, the characters are well put together, it gives you a lot of backstory. There's a little bit of juxtaposition, wrong word, sorry. There's a little bit of like backstory and explanation given at the beginning to kind of show you the world that we're in, and give some good standing on its own. I found it intriguing, like with some of the character developments and the Snow's kind of like progression throughout it. And I really liked some of the characters that are like the lady that does the Game Master.
Viola Davis?
Yes. Yep. And some of the other people that were in the background do a really good job of like flair and showing this world is kind of silly but also dark. It's something that they did in the original 4 is the people in the Capitol are always like cheery and dolled up and always against the backdrop of this like slaughter going on, and it keeps that theme really well and holds to it and does a really good job of making that work a little bit by knocking those two together a little bit. So I really enjoyed that, the production of it, and I really enjoyed I know you have feelings about this, but I enjoyed the film, the plot, and like Snow's progression. Like, I enjoyed each part. So that's me. Yes, I know, John, you're gonna hurt it. Just do it. Do it. Rip off the Band-Aid.
I give this film a 3.
Oh.
Ouch. It is gorgeous. It is shot really well. The sets are great. The costuming is great. A lot of the things that are going on visually are absolutely stunning. That does not make a movie. It just doesn't. This film was the longest feeling film that we've seen this entire year. And we've literally seen a film that was 4 hours long. The plot is not that interesting, and it pulls itself across... It's literally dragging its own corpse to a conclusion. The acting can be solid from the side characters. The acting from the leads was not super compelling. The emotional moments do not hit. The interesting parts of the film don't hit very well. The film drags. Just overall, it wasn't an enjoyable film. I didn't really enjoy. There's not a single part that really sticks out to me that I go, wow, that was great.
I have a few. I'll add in spoilers.
Okay. But yeah, like it's just one of those things. Like going through that movie, it just felt very unenjoyable the entire time for me. It just didn't do anything for me. So, yeah, 3.
You're only mad because you paid and you didn't get anything out of it.
Right, I paid $60 to be bored for 3 hours.
All right. Spoilers. Let's go. Spoilers.
All right.
Good things here.
Spoilers. I cannot believe that at the end of the film, it's revealed that the father to Peeta and Katniss was none other than who would become President Snow. And that was the entire point, is it just wraps right in.
Oh, no, they're siblings. No. Oh, why? Oh, you monster. Oh, my gosh. I almost, when they mentioned the Katniss thing, I was almost wondering if, like, they were going to birth a child and it was going to be like, that's the grandfather of... And I'm like...
No, when they forced that line, I about barfed. Not gonna lie. Like, no, it's just, they pull out
it's
this
not
reed.
actually, well, it's not actually forced because that's mentioned, that's where her name came from. So it comes from it. It's just, but it is a little, that was very forced.
It feels very forced. Like,
it was forced.
I don't know, like, I would have laughed out loud, though, if they had pulled out this, like, plant and they were like, oh, it's called this, like, potato or whatever. And then she just goes, but everybody around here calls it polk salad.
Okay, so the big thing about this film is it has 3 acts, and each act does have a very different, like, theme and, like, point to it. The first act is the setup. It's showing Snow's background and what he is.
Yeah.
What I found compelling about this film in each of the acts, like, Act 1 felt strong to me. Like, I enjoyed it from beginning to end. Then it goes Act 2, and Act 2 is where it started to feel like it was dragging a little bit. Act 3 felt like it was picking up, but then falls apart. Now, I give it a 7, yes. And I really enjoyed it, but I do understand the problems with this film. There's plenty of them. One of the major issues that they have with this film that I was going to hit hard, required spoilers to do, is Snow himself and the other lead, I can't, you remember the actress name, but
Viola Davis.
Yes, but she plays Lucy Gray, was that her name?
No, that's Rachel Zegler's character. She plays Doctor something or other.
Oh no, not her. The one that was the tribute.
Rachel Zegler.
Yeah,
who played Lucy Gray.
Okay, Lucy Gray. That's what I'm thinking of. Rachel Zegler. Okay, Lucy Gray. Those two, when they're together, in the first act, felt like they were real people. In the second act, they feel like robots.
And the third act, they feel like puppets. It's weird because it's like they filmed the first act and like, that was really good. We don't need to act for the rest of the movie. Because the second one, they don't really interact as much, so it's not as noticeable, but the few times they do, it is. And the third act, they don't feel like they're real people anymore. They feel fake.
Yes.
Well, no, and here's another thing, just while we're talking about this. The acting in this film literally goes from, I can see it, like there's some subtlety to it, and I'm going, the story is boring. Like, the first act has a very, very boring rise and fall.
Well, it's meant to.
And the second, the
second's where it should ramp up really hard.
And it didn't.
It did, but the stakes don't matter because you don't care about any of the people involved.
Well, yeah, and so it just kind of, it ends up, though, just being flat. It just comes off flat. And what ends up happening is, in the second act, the subtlety is gone, and they're just outright acting. The third act, they're not acting anymore. And did you notice this? Rachel Zegler went from sweet as pie southern accent to no accent at all.
Yeah, well, not none, but it dropped flat. Yes, that was weird. Okay, so the thing, this falls into some of the other movies that we've talked about before, where you don't know if it's the inconsistency is designed to throw you off, where it's meant to be confusing on purpose, or if it's just bad. And the problem is, it doesn't matter because it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So even if it was on purpose, it's bad because it comes out wrong. Because you could say, I thought for a minute maybe her accent was fading because she wasn't real. Like she was playing on a character as well.
But that's never
developed. Yeah. I thought that's where it was going.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't do anything with it. I'm like, they're just bad at writing it.
Yeah, and not only that, here's the other thing that's just like, while we're talking about bad writing, the dialogue is awful. The dialogue is not compelling. The story is not compelling. It falls flat because it just feels like here is expositional dialogue block here, and then this is filler dialogue here, and then this is character development dialogue here, and then this is...
So the first act, when Snow, like, his other classmates feel robotic. But that feels on purpose, because they're literally just living in a society where they're all fake. Everybody's fake. Yeah. Everybody is fake. And that was a thing in the original Hunger Games, too. Yeah. The Capitol is full of fake people. They're faking everything. Their feelings, they don't believe or really feel anything real. It's all fake. And that's made very clear in the Capitol, that they're all just playing a role. And that's just the way the Capitol works. Everybody's just playing a role, and nobody really believes anything or anything. The one friend who actually, like, feels something for that stands out a little bit in that. Where Snow is doing his best to, like, portray himself as everybody else, he starts to waver a little bit. Not because of caring or anything, but because he sees opportunity, and he starts following opportunity. Yep. There's this scene where him and the Lucy Gray are on the other side of a fence, and they're just talking with each other, and she's like freaking out because it's the day behind the hunters. That was a compelling scene, because you're seeing part of his humanity, but you don't know, is this actually his humanity, or is this he just seeing... They say that, the other characters keep saying that, well, he's just seeing opportunity. Did you actually do it for opportunity? I'm convinced that he doesn't know the real reason he's doing anything either. Like, he's just going with the flow and doing what he feels is going to be best for him at the time. And he's convincing himself that I'm a good guy, I'm doing the right thing. But everybody else around him is like, no, you're not. You're a freaking psychopath. What the heck are you talking about?
Well, and the other thing is that there's literally no real definitive tone in regards to Snow. Because Snow literally does actions that seem to be out of character for him, because you want him to seem human, and then he's not human at all. Well, he has emotion, and then he's completely robotic. And the entire time, it's like everything that he does only ultimately serves himself. Yes. Everything he does ultimately serves himself.
That is
and then
correct.
At the end of the film, we're supposed to believe that it's just like some sort of survival mechanism on his part, that he doesn't even know. He's not even aware that everything he's doing just benefits himself.
I didn't think that at all. What I got out of it was the idea that he just is so he's lying and suppressing it on himself so hard that he's almost convinced himself that he's the good guy, but he knows it's not true. But here's the thing about him, though. When you're talking about, like, the character flipping in and out, this actually reminds me a little bit of, and I can't remember, there was another film watch where this was the thing too, but where, like, oh, that's right, I was gonna think it was Captain Marvel, where the whole film they're like, don't show any emotion, don't show any emotion, don't show any emotion, don't show emotion, and she never actually does. So you're confused. This felt like that, where everybody's like, we know you're actually a sociopath, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was like, is that meant to throw us off? Because he's not, I don't see him as a clear psychopath, because he does have real emotions. He just, honestly, like, he's flippant about them. He's like all over the place.
Well, no, and it flips. It flips. He has extreme emotion. If
he
has emotion, it's extreme. But the other thing is that he has no emotion on, like, the most impactful scenes. I don't know if it's the actor and it just is wooden acting, or if it's on purpose. And
that's actually a good question. I don't know if this is poor acting or poor direction on the part, or if it's just written that way. But he does get hard to follow. I was intrigued in the first act because I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. It made it a little blurry, but kind of gave some path.
Well, and his subtlety.
Yes,
like, he's acting subtly.
Yeah,
like,
it's subtle.
And it's like eye movements. It's literally scenes where, like, everybody around him is freaking out, and he's just stone cold.
Yes. It's
stuff like that where you're going and you're like, oh, like, people might not notice.
Yeah.
But he's totally
in the second act, he starts to get more emotional, and because he's obsessing over the girl, so you're starting to see him grow in his emotionalness, and, like, he's growing attached. It's not like love; it's obsession. He's obsessed with her.
He's obsessed with the idea of her.
She's like a glass ornament he wants to keep on a shelf and admire, but not actually care for, and that's shown really strongly. Then there's the third act where he goes out there, and you're like, wow, this is gonna be really interesting. And then that's where they don't really do anything with it for a while, because he finally sees her, and it's like you can see that he's starting to realize he's not sure if he even really cares about her. And then they run away together. And this was the moment where they really could have plucked it and been like, either I was expecting him to kill her, like betray her. Yeah. And then I'm like, there it is. There's the real Snow. He doesn't really feel... When she offered him the moment, I was expecting him to just shoot her in the back.
No, when he picked up that walking stick, I was like, he's going to beat her to death.
If he had killed her, that would have raked in the whole film. Or
if it had finished, this sounds awful, but if it had finished that way, I probably would have given it above a 5.
Yeah, because it would have given it an amazing twist. Instead, what happens is he just kind of goes crazy and she just disappears. Then he goes back to the Capitol and nothing really happens from it. That ending to that relationship is anticlimactic as all get out, and it ruins everything that builds up to it. There's a million other ways. They could have even had them run away together, and she died. If she had died, or if the soldiers had killed her, I was expecting,
or she'd been hung.
But if she betrayed him,
or if it literally got revealed that she was a plant.
Yes.
Like, she goes through all of these things, and if literally at the end they get to the cabin and the doctor's sitting there, and it's like, okay, I've done everything according to my plan. I can ruin you here, or I can let you...
I would have felt better if one of them had betrayed each other, or if somebody else had set her up to... He needed a reason to break... He was the whole film... He's somewhat sociopathic, but he's trying to be human. It's like he cares about his... He's trying to make reasons to care about life. Yep. He's trying to tether himself to something. And ripping her away from him would have done it. They do that, but in the worst way possible.
It's not even a rip. It's literally more like...
It's left open.
No, it's not even left open. It's literally like...
Did she betray him? Did she leave him? Did he go nut? What the frick happened? It doesn't show anything. If she had been killed in front of him, he would have lost hope in humanity. I give up. Screw it. I'm just going to be the worst possible self. She betrays him. People are really evil. Screw them all. He betrays her. I was never really into this. I realized who I myself... Any of those would have been a better outcome. Where he had a trigger. He needs a trigger to push him over the edge. He was teetering over the edge the whole film, and he never quite went all the way in. Even when he killed that kid, he kept himself from going all the way in. He needed a trigger, and they didn't give him one. He just... It's like Anakin killing the younglings. Like,
well, there's no defining moment. There's no defining moment.
Yes.
When he just becomes the character.
Yes.
Because suddenly we're just supposed to believe that she just up and disappears, and then he comes back like full on President Snow.
Yes.
Like, there's no flip. It builds up and it acts like it's this big emotional payoff, and it's nothing.
It actually makes it sound like at the end he was actually truly a sociopath the entire time, and everything was fake. Which actually,
that would have actually been better.
Well, if he'd have betrayed her, that would have showed that. Like, if he had turned and shot her in the back, oh, he's just a... But it doesn't do that. It makes it seem like he really was... he needed a real trigger. He needed to kill her. He needed to kill her to show he was always a sociopath and everything we knew about him was fake. That would have been a good ending.
She needed to betray him.
She needed to betray him so he loses faith in humanity. Or they kill her in front of him, so it splits both paths. He's just going along with the flow and doing whatever he thinks he's the good guy. I'm going to take the system down from the inside, but he loses himself in the process. Any of those would have been better than what they did.
Well,
that's why I didn't give it a higher score. I enjoyed the film. The reason the 7 killed me was the ending. I was on board this film. I agree with some of the boring and slow parts. The ending kills the movie. If there had been a massive betrayal at the end of the film, it would have fixed everything for me.
Well, okay, so I think the biggest issue that I have with this film is that it is probably the worst written of any of the films.
I agree with that.
It is the worst written of it. And the thing, too, is I think I might be more harsh on this film because I literally just watched all 4 of the...
You're watching it. The last time I purposefully did not watch them recently because I didn't want it to taint my... I wanted the film to stand on its own a little bit. Even though it goes with the series, it's a prequel and it should be able to stand on its own. So I watched it without watching the other ones recently. And so I remember them. Like, I remember what happens, but one of the things that stood out to me a lot is Snow had a lot of really powerful dialogue points in the original films, where he was
also menacing.
He was menacing.
He was menacing without actually doing anything. And the thing is that this iteration of Snow does not have a menacing factor to him.
No.
He looks at the camera and we're supposed to be like, ooh, chilling. Like that's the thing.
He's not there yet. Like,
well, and here's the thing. If you watched the previous 4 films and then went into this one, it feels fake. This feels like a person literally got the premise and went, I'm going to write some fan fiction. And then they were like, we're going to make it look like the Hunger Games to sell it. And then you get into there and it's like, guess what, guys? We bamboozled you. It's not actually the Hunger Games. It's just people in the worst written plot ever. There's no intrigue. There is no danger. There are no stakes. There's no good guy. There's no bad guy. There's no definitive turn. There's no definitive moment that Snow becomes this evil person. There's nothing that defines it. This is the weakest written movie because it starts out well because it sits in the premise of the Hunger Games. It sits in the premise. The moment that the games, and the thing is, like, they do the games, they do all these different things, they're leading up to all these different things, and then they rush into it.
Yes.
They rush through the Hunger Games part of the Hunger Games.
I hate to say it, and this is going to piss everybody off, but I also think this would have been better as a 2-part film. Because they rushed into the games too quick, and then they spend a lot of time afterwards. The second of the Hunger Games, the original ones, the second one repeats the first one very strongly in the beginning, so you think it's the same movie, and then there's a sudden change in the tone when all the original people are actually all in on the plot. When you realize they're all in on it.
Well, no.
And then the freaking thing explodes and they come in. There's that massive payoff. You're like, oh, they're just doing the Hunger Games again. This is the same movie we just watched.
Well, no, but the other thing is that literally just take the film as it is and just put he's a soldier there. Make the Hunger Games the peak of the film. When he's actually trying to protect her, he's doing all these things, and they're trying to like determine is he sociopathic? Will he get rid of her for the sake of his own career, or is he just
the third act when he's at the soldier should have been shorter?
Yes,
I don't actually mind that capping the film. It just should have been way shorter. The first 2 films, the first one, the end cap is a very small portion of it, but it's impactful. And the second one, half the first part of the movie is them just trying to live their lives after the fame. And it's like building up to the Hunger Games hard. And it ends with the explosion of the Hunger Games stadium going down and them coming in to save her.
Right.
That's the first one doesn't end at the Hunger Games. It ends in the after. And then it moves into the next one. And then the second one ends at the Hunger Games. That's impactful. And the third one is showing what the Hunger Games did for war. Like they were using these not just as the games themselves, but the weapons development. Like there's a purpose to each one. Yeah. And then the final one, there's massive twists and changes in the characters. When Katniss shoots because she's going to be a new tyrant.
Yeah.
She's immediately comes out like, we're going to postpone elections. No, I'm not having another tyrant. Screw you. We just dealt with another one. We're not having another Snow. You just want to be Snow.
Yeah.
All of those had intriguing points and characters. This one started strong in the beginning, like it was going to go somewhere, and then it doesn't do anything with it.
No, and the thing is,
I would have forgiven the whole film if it had ended better, but
because it started out with its strongest premise.
Yes,
and it rushed into it and rushed to conclude it, and then the rest of the film drifts out in the middle of nowhere, and it forgets what its characters are, and it forgets its point, and then suddenly the third act comes around, and the writers just go, "Oh crap! It has to end this way," and they drag the corpse of the thing that they've beaten to death across the finish line for no payoff. That's
why I think strongly that the first part feels boring to you now. Is it had a strong premise but doesn't go anywhere with it. I've seen a lot of films where they come up with these cool things and they are slow and it can be a little boring, but it leads to something. And then once there's a payoff, all that boredom goes away. Oh, there it is. There's the payoff. Yeah. There's never a payoff. They build up, and then it goes. That's why I was intrigued. I enjoyed the film, but then it doesn't go to anything, and that's why I stopped at a 7. I was thinking, I'll stick by that sword because I did enjoy the premise of the film. But honestly, had this given Snow an actual trigger, a twist, something to push him over the edge, something we didn't expect, like her to be a plant and betray him, that would have been glorious.
Well, or she wasn't even her. Think about it. Think about this. Like, he meets her in 12. They didn't know that she was in 12. And then suddenly her accent's gone. And it's like, wait a second. And then it turns out, oh yeah, BT dubs. We literally found somebody who looks exactly like her, and that's not actually her.
That would have been good.
Like literally, like some form of betrayal, some sort of big moment. And the thing is that the biggest moment of the film is literally him just screaming in the woods with no one.
Which would have been way more impactful had he been betrayed.
Yeah.
Because he's losing his mind. That losing his mind...
It's just paranoia. It's paranoia, and then he carries that all the way back to the Capitol.
Yes.
Which makes no sense.
That's my thing. He's been paranoid the entire film. That was established. He's paranoid.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine. But the way his paranoia manifests at the end doesn't make sense based on what happened. She just disappeared, and he just kind of loses his mind. It would have made way more sense if she'd have just betrayed him. Like, openly. He feels betrayed by her. Fair enough. She disappeared on him. But that doesn't have the same impact as clarity. There's no clarity. There's no clarity in the ending. He becomes his own enemy by his paranoia, and it's like, that's real. This, I think, that hits in that real life isn't real thing. That makes sense in real life. That would drive someone in real life, maybe, but in a film, it's not compelling. It's not entertaining. Well, it doesn't give the. This is why tropes are important. People will say we have to throw the tropes out. No. Betrayal is important because a trope specifically because it establishes a character's reasoning for changing harshly. His character does a 180 without any actual real trauma or experience to push him over the edge.
Yeah.
No, there is no trigger to push him. There should have been a massive betrayal. He should have shot her and showed that he was what he was the whole time. And they're like, okay, this is about him. He is the monster. Clever. Cool. That was a clever way to do it. Or she betrays him. Okay. Bam. Makes sense. She was a plant, whatever it is, whatever you want to make it up, or she wasn't real, or she didn't trust him. Crap. I lost faith in him. You know, screw it. Screw my morality. I'm done. I'm just going to go full on Snow. Or they do something to her and he just loses faith in humanity. Loses faith in her, loses faith in humanity, loses faith in himself. Whatever it is, he does something and the freaking and everything changes. Yeah. That would have made way more sense. I was expecting it, and I guess I was a trope. I was expecting him to kill her in the cabin, or I was expecting one of them to betray the other.
Well, no,
they subverted it by not doing it, and I'm mad about it. Should have done it.
Well, literally, it had all of the parts in it that could have fit things together. Essentially, to sum up this entire film, the best way I think to describe it is this. The story is a leg that has been broken and shattered. And the little fragments of the bone are the little parts that are being put together to make an entire leg. And the film establishes in the first part all the little parts to make the leg. It has a clear knee bone and it has a clear end toe. The film's job was to make a cast to refirm all of those parts together to fit the beginning of this film with the end of the fourth film in the Hunger Games, to make us understand the character. Halfway through the second act, when they get the putty and the bandages put together and they wet it up to try to make it into the cast form, they just left it as slop. Threw it on the leg, and then the entire thing never formed. So the entire leg is still mangled and jangled. It just has all of the parts of a much better film. This film is awful. It's awful because it has potential. Grows. Throws its best premise away way too soon.
It does remind me of Little Mermaid, where like the premise of the film had more like weight to it than the actual film that we got. Yeah. Because, and not only that, you see what you do see The pieces that are there are really strong. They just don't fit together. And so you built a film that could have been a masterpiece. Because, man, if Snow had, in that second act, had he betrayed her in there, or like there had been some kind of like a twist to one of the characters' background, or if the reveal of the mentor trying to sabotage him came sooner. The betrayal of the sabotage of the teacher should have come before he was exiled.
Yeah.
Because then he would have time to dwell on it. But it doesn't. He doesn't release it till the end when it doesn't matter anymore. Like, it has no weight.
Well, and here's the other thing too: is like all of the characters, you can tell who the author spent the most time trying to develop, and it just subsequently gets worse and worse and worse until you just have shells, and then they try to make up for the shells with better actors. The best actors that they hired on the film are characters that have nothing to develop them by except for 3 points of dialogue. Peter Dinklage has 3 points of dialogue, and that's his whole character. Viola Davis, the best actress on the entire film, is just used for exposition and dialogue points.
Well, and she's chilling though. I love.
No. She's chilling. She's well charactered.
She is the best part. She is the best part of this film. Every time she's on screen, she steals the show, and just that.
And she's underutilized.
That
and it's clear she's
morbid, macabre, just dark tone, because she's saying horrible, terrible things in a calm manner, and that was Snow. She is mirroring Snow of the original series, where he's maniacal but soft-spoken, and everything he says is gentle and nice, but it's
awful
horrible.
If you think about it.
It's horrible things. She's even a step up from that, and it's really powerful, and I liked that. And that's what Snow should have developed into, but it never really gets there. I'm done. We need to wrap up.
Yeah, none of the characters developed the way that they should, in my opinion. Like, Peter Dinklage's character, it just suddenly seems like they threw him in, and he's a little bit different, and he explains all of his motives, and it never actually establishes throughout the film that's what his motives actually were.
It hints at them, but that doesn't do any good. There's a point, it should have...
It hints at it too subtly.
Well, yes, that's the problem. The audience picks up on it, but Snow doesn't, and it's like, Snow needs to hear it sooner, because Snow needs to dwell on it. If that betrayal had come right when he was being sent off, the send-off would have had more tone. You can tell.
Well, and then
you can tell he's the reason for it, but you don't know why he's doing it. It's because I hate your father, and I think you're becoming him. And there's this moment in the beginning of the film, like, you don't have to be your father. Like, everybody's saying, you don't have to be your father, don't have to be your father, don't have to be your father. But nobody says who his father is.
Well, and the other thing is that at the beginning of the film, it sounds like his father was a rebel. They literally call him a rebel. But then he's like this great high-up person in the Capitol.
No, it says he was killed by a rebel.
Oh, okay. I thought he was hung for being a rebel.
No, he was killed by a rebel. In the forest. He was killed by a rebel. But that's the thing. Like,
I thought they said killed as a rebel.
No, he was killed by a rebel. So the whole thing is he was part of the Capitol and everything, and they lost. Yeah, he's the reason the games exist. That should have been established sooner, because it gives reason why. Because everyone's always saying you don't have to be like your dad. You don't have to be like your dad. And it's like, okay, but who's his dad? We don't know anything about him.
But his dad died in the war.
Yes.
How did he establish the Hunger Games if the Hunger Games came about at the end of the war?
No, he came up with the idea.
Why would they come up with an idea for something that they didn't need?
What?
And then use a thing.
The rebellions had happened for a while, and this wasn't the first one. They needed a way to shut it down.
Yeah.
So he gave it as a class assignment, but then all-out war actually broke out, and it went to hell.
This tells you how poorly put together this film is.
Did not pay attention to the beginning.
I paid attention as much as I possibly could to this film.
The beginning of the film establishes quickly that his dad was killed, and then when he comes back at the very end and says it was an assignment,
yes,
it does say that there was the open warfare. There have been rebellions before, but this was the first time it was open war, and that they actually went like hard on the Capitol. But yeah, it's. That is spoken. It just isn't spoken all at the same time. It's spread throughout the film. Again, why that should have been exposed sooner. It's too late in the film.
It's just poorly written.
I actually don't agree it's poorly written. I think it's poorly laid out. They wrote a lot of great stuff and then just didn't put it in the right order.
No, like, it literally is they wrote great things and didn't put it back together. That's bad writing. I can have the greatest
That's-
dialogue of all time and the greatest ideas of all time. I throw them in the wrong place, that's bad writing.
No, because the writers write out the stuff. It's up to the director and the team to put it together and put it to good use. It actually looks to me like they wrote a cohesive story, and the director said, "This is dumb. Let's mix it up." Because the way it's actually filmed looks like they had a plan, and that plan got chopped into pieces. I'm wondering if there's a ton of stuff on the cutting room floor that puts this together better that they thought was the bad parts and kicked it out. Because they kept the weirdest... The way it's cut, you can tell there's stuff they cut out or decided not to use that probably would have been better in the film than what they kept.
Which makes no sense. How would you release a film like that?
They do it all the time.
Well, I know that they do it all the time, but not usually this bad.
This is what happened to Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron got cut up. Age of Ultron suffered the same problem. The deleted scenes that are in there make more sense than some of the stuff they kept. And you're like, the movie makes more sense with the deleted scenes in it. And some of the original scenes out, they cut the wrong thing. This feels like it suffered from that a little bit. So,
Right. Anyway, we've talked for a long time about this film. I feel like my life's been wasted. Things that don't waste life, though, can't even say that it's our channel. If this is what our channel is, oh god.
I don't mind going long on films like this because there's so much to talk about, and this one is hard. This one could go. We could analyze this film forever.
This film could just be rewritten. We could literally do a curb stomp on this, I think.
I
It is
agree.
that bad.
I agree.
Anyway, speaking of curb stomps, we do those once a month where we take a bad film and we rewrite it and we try to make it more entertaining and more cohesive. We also do a bunch of different things on Wednesdays, like watch old films, and we also talk about different entertainment topics. We also do more films like these every single week. We go to the movie theater and we give you guys a fresh review. So if you like that stuff, be sure to check out our channel, subscribe to our channel. If you like this video specifically, leave us a like, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Otherwise, share us with your friends, and we will see you guys in the next video.
Thanks for watching.